Welcome to our coverage of the FIA GT Championship Round 3 of the series. It's at Silverstone, and the British race is also the Centenary Tourist Trophy. First raced in 1905. It's one of Britain's, indeed the world's, oldest motorsporting trophies. And huge crowd meeting the stars and the cars in Leicester Square in London during the week, and then coming out to sunny, hot Silverstone to see the cars in action this Sunday. This is Andrea Bertolini, the Maserati factory test driver. Races with Carl Wendlinger in one of the new MC12s in the series, one of the two JMB racing cars sponsored by Red Bull. And the development driver, starting at last time out at Manicourt, second on the grid, taking the lead early on. Lost the lead during the pit stops, but the car was able to pass many cars to work its way back up the order, including the number 6 Chevy Corvette here. But in the final stint, Andrea Bertolini driving again, 7 laps from home. Momentary lack of traction and concentration, perhaps nearly hit a slower car at the hairpin, went into the gravel but recovered, held his lead and took the checkered flag, his third win in the car. Andrea Bertolini saying that was certainly one of the most difficult stints of my career. I had a problem with grip at the front end of the car, and in a sense I was not able even to think about the finish line. With 7 laps to go, went off, and it was such a long 7 laps, much longer than any other I've ever had because of that problem going off into the gravel. But in the end, he managed to hold on and took the win. It's his third win with the car, Maserati's third win. He's won twice with Mika Salo in the factory cars last season. So in fact, he has been in every Maserati that has won in the FIA series.
The Manicourt was very positive for us, so we are quite confident also to have a good performance here in Silverstone. Of course, we have more weight now, and it's never easy to find a good setup. There's more opposition maybe here in Silverstone because we have the 2 Aston Martins in the field, and it's a new circuit again, a new challenge. So we have to work fast and clever, and then I think we are possible to have a good car again.
Wendlinger and Bertolini second in the championship, just 2 points behind Maserati drivers Bartels and Schneider, who lead the series. So the Aston Martins, fastest cars in qualifying, but they're not registered for the championship, so they won't be taking championship points, even if they win the race. And that means that the door is really open for the Maseratis that line up behind the sleek green racing machines from Great Britain. Bertolini looking happy as teammate Carl Wendlinger sits in the stewing sunshine on the grid, ready for the start of the Tourist Trophy. And it's Andrea Bertolini who'll take us around the circuit.
Buongiorno, sono Andrea Bertolini. Abbiamo vinto a Manicourt l'ultimo appuntamento. Questa è la nostra MC.
Obviously, this needs no translation to anybody, but Andrea welcoming you to the car that won last time out at Manicourt, the third win for Maserati, and that interesting little footnote that he has been in every Maserati that's won in this new sports car iteration. So let's have a look around the circuit. 6th gear as you come across the start-finish line, rushing all the way up from the Luffield corner down into 4th gear. This is Copse corner, very tight apex and a long wide exit. Then it picks up into 5th gear and just snatching 6th as they run through Maggots, and then hard braking down towards Beckett's, down into 3rd gear. Grand Prix circuit turns left, International circuit turns right. Newcomers through the Ireland bends, named after Innes Ireland, the Grand Prix driver of the 60s. Another left-hand kink as we're going up the gearbox, 4th, 5th, again into 6th, rushing down towards Abbey. And again, like Beckett's, very important braking for the right-hander. Very high curbs indeed, perilously high, very heavily corrugated. Stay away. 2nd gear exit, and all the way up through into Bridge Bend. 4th gear, little breathe of the throttle at the apex of breathe, and then down hard on the brakes. 3rd gear for Priory, down into 2nd after another quick stab on the gas for Brooklands, and then hanging on seemingly forever in 2nd gear, waiting until you line up the wiper with the speaker tower there, and away we go, exiting out over Herbert's Trench, the grass there, and aiming for the inside pit wall, flicking past the barriers. There's the start-finish line. Today, 3-hour race. I hope I'll be able to do what I did in Magny-Cours, he says. Goodbye, good luck, and ciao to all the Italians. Ready for the start of the Centenary Tourist Trophy. Championship being led by Michel Bartels and Timo Scheider's Maserati. Pedro Lamy, with points scored not in the Aston Martin, is in joint third place. But the Vodafone Racing and JMB Racing Maserati teams leading the championship at the moment. The Labra Ferrari team running them close. In the GT2 category, Lieben Rockenfeller, Collard and Sugden with equal points with a win and a second each. And behind them, the chasing pack. Group M team leading the championship. It is the factory Porsche outfit after all. So as the Aston Martins lead them round, ready for the start, then Darren Turner will start the 28 car with the Deglo yellow highlights. Car number 29 will be started by Portuguese Pedro Lamy. His partner, Peter Cox, won the first FIA GT race here in a McLaren GTR. Pedro Lamy will have plenty to say about repeating that here. But Darren Turner and David Brabham, well, Brabham here going for the Tourist Trophy that eluded his father in his long and illustrious career. And the championship leader's car in third place on the grid, the first of the Vodafone Racing Maseratis. And with the Astons not set to score points here, they're not registered for the championship. This is just a build-up for Le Mans. Then the points are up for grabs for the regular contenders, the Maseratis, the Ferraris, the Celines, and of course the Corvette. Fourth place on the grid is the Corvette C5R. Anthony Kumpen starting that one. Well, Maserati's thick and fast behind him. He's got three of the four Maseratis behind him, Kumpen, and down towards the back of the grid. Three now of the Mosler MT900Rs, in addition to the Embassy Racing Porsche from Great Britain, from the British GT Championship, making one of its occasional forays. But problems before the start for Graham Nash's quicker Celine, the Paolo Roberti Joel Camathias car having to start from the pit lane. Jaime Melo in the number 3 car, following his teammate, the number 2 machine. Just keeping those Pirellis nice and warm. Under Bridge Bend, or under the bridge and into Bridge Bend they go. Lots of weaving to try and keep some heat in the tyres. Also on the, well, getting towards ubiquitous Pirelli tyres now, Anthony Kumpen. And a new compound of tyre being tried on the Corvette, which will be raced in the Panos Esperanti, or by the Panos Esperanti at Le Mans. That car also running on the new compound Pirelli tyres that are being run by the Car Sport Corvette this weekend at Silverstone. So the Labra competition Ferrari ahead of the Russian age Ferrari, and the Maseratis stuck in there as well. This is Carl Wendlinger as they come through the infield section here. Priory and then Brooklands, the two left-handers, tight and then tighter again, and then the seemingly never-ending right at Luffield. Not the Grand Prix circuit then, the international circuit, ready for the start of the Centenary Tourist Trophy. The car's in vaguely 2x2 formation. That'll do for Eduardo Freitas, getting ready to flag them away. Red light is on, but it's a good square start. They get the green. Darren Turner goes middle for diddle, and going across immediately to the left-hand side is Fabio Babini. Little check there from the second of the Aston Martins. And that means that Pedro Lamy, getting on the brakes instead of staying on the throttle on the way down to Cox for the first time, has dropped down into third, into fourth position. He's been jumped by Fabrizio Golin in the Ferrari. The red and white machine, the Corvette, and the Russian age Ferrari right behind. And then 3 Maseratis, the 2 Red Bull cars, not impressive in qualifying. And behind them, the 2 GPC GS Ferrari 575 Maranellos. So pro-drive cars, or pro-drive built cars, filling 3 of the top 4 places, make that 3 of the top 5 or 4 of the top 6, because of course the Russian age car is of pro-drive built 550 Maranello as well. So 1 Maserati, 1 Corvette, interrupting the Banbury outfits domination of the lead on this opening lap. But look at Bouchou in the Russian age Ferrari having a snap at Pedro Lamy, which, if you like, is the pro-drive sports car Mark II. The Aston Martin Mark I was the Ferrari. Everything that's been learned in 4 years of racing that V12 engine car has gone into the new V12 engine car. End of lap 1, it's Darren Turner by about 3/4 of a second from the Maserati, and Babini behind him, battle on for 3rd place. Fabrizio Golin under pressure from Anthony Kumpan. Good inside move going into Copse on lap 2. There's cojones for you, and Pedro Lamy having a look with that gaping orange codfish mouth. The Aston Martin slips by the Ferrari, unsettled there. Golin offline, going into the left-hander at Maggots and paying the penalty for it. He's got Christophe Bouchou right behind, and the Corvette and the Aston are now gone. Here comes Bouchou. Bouchou's looking to go around the outside because Golin's got the inside line into Abbey, and you have to be very careful of these curbs here. They do a lot of damage to the car. Oh, look, somebody's hit one there, the first of the Maseratis, binging a bit of its under tray off on those curbs. They are, they feel like they're 1.5 feet high. I guess they're about 6 inches high. They are heavily corrugated to withstand the abuse that cars give them, and you don't go over them willingly. Through the infield section then. And Darren Turner with his head down and charging at the head of the field. One Maserati going with him. Well, Silverstone famous in sports car circles for its hares, the little floppy-eared devils that leap around all over the place. And of course in sports car racing, when Aston were last racing, or were most famously racing in the 50s and 60s, tortoise and hare tactics were very familiar to try and break the fragile cars of the rivals with your hare and allow your tortoise to win. Now let's have a look as Darren Turner takes the middle ground. Babini in the Maserati looking at the inside line to Copse, then suddenly thinks, actually that's a really daft idea, I'll go outside. And Pedro Lamy having to swerve and got onto the brake pedal momentarily to steady the car, lost a couple of positions right behind in the GPC Ferrari. There's the team car right in front, everybody trail braking into the corner, the 2 Maserati side by side, the 2 Ferraris side by side from the onboard shot of Jaime Melo. Very busy run up into Copse. Field starting to spread out in the opening couple of laps, and they'd better make the most of it because this is not the Grand Prix circuit. It's not a 2.5 mile track, it's considerably shorter than that, and the cars will soon be into the GT2 and G2 category cars, the slower 2 classes in this field. Corvette in 3rd, and again looking strong. Anthony Kumpan having a good opening stint here as well. Ballsy move to take 3rd place, and here's a replay of it. Great timing there. That was a very, very nice inside move. 10 laps in, Turner, Babini and Kumpan have broken away now. Pedro Lamy in 4th in the 2nd Aston Martin. Golin, Bouchou and the 3 Maseratis racked up behind. But the top 3, an Aston Martin, a Maserati and a Corvette, past the Seba Racing Porsche. And the British teams entered this weekend, since it doesn't clash with the British Championship, and it is, after all, the tourist trophy at Silverstone. Why not? Huge crowd on hand at Silverstone in glorious summer sunny weather. Yeah, a lot of pink shoulders and pink heads going home tonight. Well, great race already at the front of the field, and look at Babini really having a go now around the 360. Loses a little bit of time, but he is definitely trying to worry Darren Turner at traffic and into a mistake, and it force him to make a move in traffic that he doesn't really want to move, and possibly then take the advantage. And as Turner manages to ease away a fraction, Babini has got the Corvette right with him, so there's no respite for the man in the Maserati either. He's attacking, but simultaneously he's got to think of the mirrors. On board the Corvette shot there, showing you the view down the straight at Silverstone. Everybody, of course, knows the Grand Prix circuit at Silverstone, the long hanger straight down to Stowe and the fast run up to Abbey through Chapel Curve. But the international circuit, perhaps not so well known internationally, bizarrely, but it is a very good racetrack. Coming up behind the Spirit Kia sponsored motor, the fastest of the G2 cars, which is in among the GT2 front runners, which are at the moment are the Gruppa M cars, and that Porsche coming towards us as well. Third in the GT2 category, the Embassy Racing Porsche, with the two 550 Ferraris, Fabrizio Golin and Christophe Bouchou in their own inter-Nissan battle. Labra team, of course, they know Bouchou well. He's driven for them so many times, but he's not in their red car. He's in the Surtec Run Russian age racing car as they come up behind the Embassy Racing Porsche, and Ben Collins does his best to stay online and out of the way. You get mutually exclusive concepts down there into Maggots and Beckett's, but he's trying his best anyway. Maserati swamped by him as well. They're staying with this Ferrari battle. Some great racing. We have been really treated by the GT field to two fantastic races so far this season, and by every yardstick, Silverstone already shaping up for more of the same. Car number 15, the winner at Magny-Cours, Andrea Bertolini and Carl Wendlinger's car, looking like an also-ran here. Don't forget, though, that the Aston Martins, if they finish in the top order, will not be scoring points. So you can, if they both finish, you can assume that you take or add 2 positions, or subtract 2 positions. If you finish 5th, you'll get points for 3rd, you know what I mean. So Wendlinger perhaps not as bad as it looks, but not that great either. This car, of course, that did win last time out. Indeed, it's the only Maserati team to have won this season. The JMB team, the only privateer Maserati team to have won. The cars entered last year by the factory Maserati racing outfit. And these 550 Maranello Ferraris, very well-honed race cars. Of course, the BMS Scuderia Italia team that ran Ferrari 550s, 3 of them last year and the year before, won the Drivers' Championship title and the team's title, and the manufacturer's top car was Ferrari as well. So the prototype built car, Banbury, about what, a 20-minute drive from Silverstone, half an hour in if you're in a racing transporter, 4.5 minutes if you're in a 550 Maranello. Very close indeed to Silverstone. It's very much a home race for the Banbury concern, and these customer cars have been enormously successful. They're certainly hoping that the new Aston Martin DBR9 GT will be enormously successful as well. It's already won its maiden outing at the Sebring 12 Hours. Battle here between the Lister in the GT1 category, Justin Keane and Liz Halliday, and Liz Halliday, not any relation to Johnny Hallyday, and the Lawrence Tomlinson and Johnny Kane TVR. Only one of Lawrence's TVRs at the Silverstone race, the other one clearly not fit enough to take the start. But at the moment, it's Aston Martin, Maserati and Corvette, the lead 3 within 2.5 seconds as the first hour opens up at Silverstone. GT2 leader at Silverstone in the Tourist Trophy round 3 of the FIA GT Championship is the pole sitter in the GT2 class, Mike Rockenfeller, sharing the Gruppa M Porsche with fellow factory driver Mark Lieb. Tim Sugden in second spot in the 88 car, sharing with Emmanuel Collard, and in 3rd place, car number 55, the Embassy Racing car, Ben Collins, and now Neil Cunningham at the helm in the middle stint of the category. Tim Sugden there with the race leading Aston Martin just in front of him, and the chasing pair behind, the Maserati of Fabio Bobini and the number 6 Corvette. And having a good look at Bobini there as they got into Abbey with the little Porsche in front of them. And the Porsche by no means a slow car, but compared to these Leviathans at the track, it does lack a little in pace and braking. Superb, growling, throaty bellow of the Corvette V8. The very different nature of these 3 cars. Part of the joy of sports car racing is not that you get so much time, not just that you get so much time to study the cars, but they're all so different. Maserati with a V12 engine behind the driver and a high-pitched modern howl. Aston Martin V12 engine in front of the driver and a similar metallic howl to its exhaust note. And then, of course, the venerable big block Chevy in the Corvette with the split exhaust, so you get that offbeat 4-cylinder grumble bellowing out of the rocket launcher tubes that are the exhausts in the side of the car. All very different looks, all very different sounds. It's a real pot boiler of entertainment and excitement, and with the three cars still nailed together, first, second and third, Darren Turner with a moment's respite as a result of getting through the GT2 leaders quicker than the Maserati, catching them in a better place. Again, the Maserati a lap after passing Sugden, having to do the same job with Rockenfeller. Oh, and the Corvette goes in deep. Well, Anthony Kumpen saw that he was going to have to go and create the gap, because the GT2 leader was going to close the door there and aim for the apex, as he should do. Stay on the racing line is the rule of thumb for the slower cars. Let the faster cars find a way around. Kumpen had to take to the grass, but still made contact, and that might cost them in the long term. It's rare that contact in a 3-hour race doesn't cost you something. Here comes Kumpen down the inside. The Porsche is always going to turn in. It's a tight left-hander. Little spurt of acceleration, not quite enough room for Kumpen to get by before the apex. He was there and he was just in an untenable situation, but they seem to have got away with it. Half an hour old the race, and there's only a few hundred meters covering the top three. Further back, behind the Ferraris, the battle of the Maseratis. The number 15 car is Wendlinger down the inside, and again, it's the 66 car, Mike Rockenfeller, that nearly comes off worst as the Maseratis clash. Wendlinger over those very high inside curbs, and he might have damaged the floor, the underneath of the car. He might even end up knocking off a pipe or some suspension parts with that. Those curbs are very high and not to be used. Now these you can go over with impunity, but here, coming down into Abbey, looks to the inside, and the door is brusquely, firmly shut by Timo Scheider. And Mike Rockenfeller, watch the Porsche. Uh-oh, I see them all coming, the bullies of the playground. I'm staying out of the way here. He's on the grassy part of the track, almost coming to a standstill to avoid getting thumped into the barriers. Still chasing Fabrizio Golin, and Golin, interestingly, the reigning FIA GT champion, or one of the two reigning FIA GT champions, as both drivers win the title, or won the title last year. Now racing in the Grand Am Series in the States. Back in a Ferrari 550 this weekend, because its regular driver Pedro Lamy is on Aston Martin duty. Yes, the House of Cards moves and everybody, the music stops, everybody has to grab a new seat. So Golin back with the sort of car with which he was so successful in 2003, 2004, no, where are we now? Yes, 2003, runner-up in the championship, 2004 championship winner. Golin clearly really enjoying his racing here. Several former winners of FIA GT races at Silverstone. Carl Wendlinger, one of them, won in a Labra, not in a Labra, in an Orica Viper at the beginning of the new century. Michel Bartels there, the man who put together the Vitaphone Racing and Conrad Celine deal last year and has expanded that to a two-car Maserati operation. And that's again the replay of the incident between his teammate in his car, Timo Scheider, like Bartels' next DTM driver, and Carl Wendlinger. Well, Wendlinger losing out fractionally there. Bartels' teammate now really reeling in the Ferrari. Scheider hunting down Golin. Well, the race already 30 laps old and heading towards the end of the first hour. And this is the three-way squabble for 6th, 7th and 8th. Christophe Bouchou in 5th place, past Golin and now got very quickly away. And the newest of the three Moslers, this a brand new car. Team barely had it for 2 weeks and certainly never raced before. And as you can see, doing a fair impression of a teapot, brewing up for just for devilment's sake to make the driver even hotter. In a headset closest to the camera, David Richards, and just past him, George Chappell, the man who is the project leader at ProDrive of their sports car racing development programs, the man who masterminded the success of the 550 Maranello, and then has repeated that, it would seem, with the Aston Martin. Queues of customers, by all accounts, ringing up, knocking on the door, sending emails to Banbury saying, I want one of those Astons. Not only are they a sexy looking road car, they've translated into a fabulously drool-worthy race car, and well, you can clearly see a win at Sebring and leading here. They are good in anybody's company. Porsche's dominating proceedings here, but behind them some interest with the two Ferrari 360 Modenas this weekend, and also the TVR 400R of Team LNT, Lawrence Tomlinson and Johnny Kane's car. A little bit of added interest as well, chasing the Gruppa M cars with which they battled last year, the Embassy Racing team. Embassy Racing doing most of their season, or in fact doing the entire British season, and a couple of foreign races as well. And the Embassy Racing team converting from a Corvette that they raced last year to a Porsche this year. They chased Gruppa M last year, Gruppa M winning the British Championship with 19-year-old Jonathan Cocker and Neil Cunningham and Ben Collins now in this brand new RSR Porsche, engineered, very strong engineering team led by team manager Doug Bebb. Doug Bebb, long-time stalwart, well, learnt his trade alongside Patrick Head at Williams, engineering terms and as a designer, and most recently was one of the head engineers at the Orica Viper team in their successful sports car racing era. Moved on as an engineered many Vipers since, and is now turning his hand to guiding the Embassy Racing team, hopefully to this year's British GT title. But for Gruppa M, well, Kenny Chen's team stepping up from the British Series to the FIA Series and attracting Porsche's factory blessing with three fully salaried factory Porsche drivers, Rockenfeller, who sat on pole position in the 66 car, and teammate Mark Lieb, and Emmanuel Collard in the other car, sharing with British driver Tim Sugler. Now the pressure is on for the lead. Darren Turner feeling it as Fabio Bobini, on his in-lap into the pits, has a Luffield lunge up the inside of the race-leading Aston Martin. Cheeky so-and-so. What would he have done if he'd got ahead? Just waved to Darren as he peeled off into the pits? That's good stuff. Like to see that. Shows the driver's got ambition and a sense of humour, and even after following the Aston Martin for an hour, still had the desire to at least get alongside him. Of course, for the championship, the long-term plan for Vitaphone Racing's Maseratis, as for all the other non-Aston Martin drivers, is to gain championship points. Fuel in, driver change nearly completed. It's quite a long one though. Now Bartels is in the 9 car, driver change going on behind in car number 10 as well. Car number 9 taking tyres. And Pedro Lamy strapping in Peter Cox. Now then, so the 4th place car, the Aston Martin, is in. Fueling going on in the number 10 car. That was behind the Aston out on the track. Don't forget, that was in the battle for 6th, 7th and 8th. But off goes the number 9 car. Heads out onto track. So Darren Turner now with the car safely handed over to David Brabham, can take a rest as Brabham will do the middle stint and Turner the last stint. They took on fuel and tyres as well as an Australian in the driver change. So the 28 car with all the reshuffles during the pits is the race leader, but the most salient fact of them all is that the 29 car is now in 2nd place. Aston Martin's running 1st and 2nd on the road, and that's because of superlative pit work and good thinking by the Aston team. The quick stop not involving a tyre change for the 29 car gives them track position ahead of the Corvette and ahead of the Maserati that was chasing them. Thomas Piache, former FIA GT champion, won the title in 2003 in the BMS Ferrari. Maurizio Golin and his teammate Luca Capillari won it last year in the 2004 iteration of the team, and the 550 Ferrari. Bert Longin in 4th position in the Corvette C5R. Of course, the factory team racing Pratt Miller built C6s, but here's a replay, and that is how the Maserati got by. Maggots turning right into Island Bends, and he had a bit of an overrun, and that is either huge pickup on the tyres, picking up all the bobbles of rubber and rubbish. No, a spin as well, and that is on the infield section. No, that's Abbey. Bert Longin losing the car at Abbey under braking as he did at Maggots. He has got to have a braking problem of some kind. I would think the pedal is going right to the floor and he's pumping it, and the brakes are grabbing on him. Replay as he rejoins. So I'm saying the Pratt & Miller team, the GM Goodwrench Corvettes in the States, running the C6R now. The C5R, though, still a very mighty racing weapon. Seba Porsche comes out in front of it. Wonder whether Longin's car will get to leave the pits. Well, there is Thomas Piache then, third place. And Longin's car in the pit lane. Left front corner. I wonder if they've shot a bearing, wheel bearing, giving them pad knock off, whether they've got a brake problem, their lead brakes are leaking maybe, the fluid's boiled in the temperature within the wheels. Either way, they're not really sure what the problem or what the solution to the problem is, and this is going to be a long stop. The Corvette looks like it is out of the running. Third race in the FIA GT Championship. Contact again between the two Maseratis. Vitaphone car and a Red Bull car, mirroring the action at the same corner at Abbey that happened with the two earlier drivers in the cars. Well, again, no damage seems to be done. The big slab-sided flanks of the Maserati seemingly taking the brunt of it. This time the number 15 car not getting too far over the curbs as Carl Wendlinger had to do. But still, 2 into 1 in Abbey, always very tough, particularly with such big cars. Well, Andrea Bertolini in the number 15 car in 5th place. Of course, one last time out. It's going to be very hard indeed for them to manage to repeat that performance here. 82 laps into the race at that stage, and there's Thomas Piache watching proceedings. Andrea Bertolini rushing over the start-finish line in 4th place. At this moment, Aston Martin's 1st and 2nd. And there is the number 15 car. Thomas Piache's number 10 car, the Vitaphone Racing car, in 3rd place, right behind Peter Cox. This is the number 15 car, diving down inside Gabriele Gardel for 4th place. And no contact there. Great classic overtaking manoeuvre at Abbey. Look at the big wing mirrors on the Aston Martin. Not only are they very rigidly mounted so the drivers can actually see what's behind them, and in this case, hello, it's a big blue car, a lapped big blue car in this case, the number 15 car. But they also have air holes in the front of the mirror, ducts the air down the tube that the mirror's supported on and into the car. That's where the fresh air gets in, or relatively fresh air, to help keep the driver cool. 28 car with Darren Turner at the helm, flashing away furiously at the Russian-age racing Ferrari to get out the way. Fabio Babini in 3rd place in his Maserati MC10. Pryor and Brooklands, the 2 left-handers, and then the long right at Luffield, running out wide, just chasing the throttle in his attempts to catch up with the 2 Aston Martins and using the grass on the exit of Luffield. Wide out through Stowe, then a quick left at Maggots, bouncing over the braking, turning all the way down into 2nd gear for the Island Bends. Big curbs there as well, don't ride them too much as you go right and then kink left. And this is annoying, no question, for the race leader. The number 15 car is not on the lead lap, but is trying to get back on it, and is being a real annoyance. Andrea Bertolini. Of course, it's his duty to try and go as fast as he possibly can in the car. He's never going to win races if he doesn't try to. But very tricky for the race leader to try and judge this one. You can see how the Aston and the Maserati at that moment pretty well matched for pace. And here comes the second Aston down the inside. Peter Cox getting by past Vasiliev and Fomenko's car. Bushi has done the opening stint and he's done for the day. The two Russian drivers will share it for the rest of the afternoon. So Darren Turner, Pedro Lamy, 2.9 seconds apart. Aston Martin running first and second. And the orange highlights on the 29 car, the second placed machine. You can see the sister car up ahead and those very bright lamps being used in the bright sunshine at Silverstone to give advance warning. Hello, hello, watch your mirrors please. The Vonka Racing Porsche in front, one of the GT2 class cars. And the Aston Martin drivers weren't worried too much about the reliability of the car. If you finish in Sebring, then you pretty much are going to finish a 3-hour race at Silverstone unless something bizarre happens. They thought they had Maserati taped in terms of speed. They didn't think they were going to be left behind by Maserati. They thought they had everything that they needed to take the game to Maserati, and so it's proved. The real question mark for the Aston Martin drivers hanging over their heads was, who on earth are all these other people in all these other cars, and who can we trust and who can't we trust? And that is the problem, perhaps, for first and foremost, as the race progresses, as the offline parts of the track get dirtier and dirtier with more and more rubber and gravel and grit and grass on them. The Aston Martins have to take more chances, or as many chances in traffic as the other front runners, but they are perhaps less educated in their guesses as to which cars will be safe to pass and which cars need more circumspection and less haste. So the first two on the road with a Maserati between them, but still very much within sight of each other. And Pedro Lamy lapping quicker now than Darren Turner. Lead drivers, or the starting drivers, back in the cars now in the closing stages of this 3-hour race. 1.06 seconds across the line. And as Turner comes up behind the number 16 Maserati, wasting no time, and nor is Carl Wendlinger. The 15 car slots through the inside as well. Lap 108. Darren Turner, Pedro Lamy. It was 1.0, it's now basically 0.0 seconds. Lamy has caught Turner. And is this gamesmanship? Is this staging a last half-hour Aston 1-2 race? Or is Pedro Lamy really going to put in a passing manoeuvre on Darren Turner? He's showed him the nose a couple of times. He's had a good look. He's been well out of the slipstream, filling the mirrors, and again he has a look. And was that contact? Looked as though Darren Turner's car had a weave. Was it as the nose of Lamy swiped across the back end? Well, all the undertrays, the splitters, the diffusers at the back are still attached. Or was it that Pedro Lamy is catching because Darren Turner's car's got a problem? GT2 battle. Race leader is Mike Rockenfeller. Ben Collins, second in Embassy Racing car in their Porsche. And third, Lawrence Tomlinson in his own TVR, driven by Johnny Kane as well. And Lawrence only has one car here, but by goodness, he's going to get himself an FIA GT podium at this rate. 66 car with a water pump problem. It's not very often that you have a problem with a factory-built Porsche. They do occasionally rear their ugly head, so the joint championship lead, well, it was always going to be broken in somebody's favour in race 3. You can't have a tie after 3 races, I don't think, unless all 4 drivers have won as many races as each other. So Sugden and Collard will now drop down the order and in fact out of the points as a result of that mechanical failure, out of their hands. Car repaired and back out on track, but that time lost in the pits is unmakeable upable. And in front of them the Spirit Kia, or the Spirit Kia Mosler. There is the second place car then, Ben Collins, sharing that with Kiwi Neil Cunningham, the Embassy Racing Porsche. So Porsche's first and second, and TVR third. And that has got to be a first, I think, in the FIA GT Championship. Lap 120, close to the end of the 3-hour race. This Centenary Tourist Trophy looks certain to have an Aston Martin as the race winner. But again, Darren Turner, did you see the brake lights flashing on and on? That had the looks to me of a man who's pumping the middle pedal. Very definitely. Race drivers of Turner's caliber do not have a second go at braking in a 3-hour race. They just don't, and the brake lights were definitely on and off. I think Darren Turner's problem is that he has got a lengthening brake pedal. I think he had to have a little pump there going into Brooklands. And that means that Pedro Lamy, with a healthy Aston Martin, may well take the lead, and he has a look. Oh, goodness! And he saw that Darren was not going to wave him by there, and he stood on the middle pedal with everything he possessed to avoid the accident, and avoid it he did. Wendlinger, though, is right there. Still a lap down, Carl Wendlinger's blue Maserati, and again at Abbey. Boys, boys, boys. For goodness sake, at least one of you win the race. Nervous faces. In the grey jumper, Dave Richards, he's taken off the Aston jacket, too warm for that. They're going to have to do something. Go on, give him the board, give him the board. Right, there's going to be a message going out on the pit board. Dave Richards said, right, get it sorted before we have both cars off. And that is George Howard Chappell. That is God's right hand there, holding out the pit board. This is not the sort of order that will be disobeyed. What is it going to say? And why on a pit board? Why not on the radio? 28, 2, slow, it says. Well, 28 is not P2. So there is the order. 28, go to P2. Was it slow? Something like that at the bottom. And that was being pointed out very graphically to Darren Turner, and Pedro Lamy takes the lead on the run through Maggots down into Beckett's. Well, that was straightforwardly enough done, wasn't it? Pedro Lamy will probably now start to vanish. Let's have a look. Pedro Lamy pulling away. Last lap at Silverstone. The Centenary Tourist Trophy, one of motor racing's oldest and most historic events, will be won by Aston Martin. With his back to us, Dave Richards in the headset there with the aerial on. George Howard Chappell, David Brabham there on the pit wall, disappointed that whatever has befallen his car, and it looks to all the world like a braking problem. They will not win the race, and the sister car will, but it'll be a win for Aston Martin. Further back, though, a good battle going on for the non-Aston Martin places, if we can put it that. Third place down, and the Astons, well, doesn't look like they're going to be in the blanket photo finish at the end of the race. Pedro Lamy pulling away from Darren Turner. Turner still with Carl Wendlinger hounding him from behind. Coming up behind the middle of the three Moslers, Barry and Phil White and Gavin Kershaw's car. And safely past him. Out of Luffield for the final time then. Checkered flag awaits. And history is made. The Centenary Tourist Trophy won by Aston Martin, and Aston Martin take second place as well. So for the Banbury concern, and for Aston Martin Racing, for ProDrive and Aston Martin Racing, 2 wins and 2 historic victories. The 12 Hours of Sebring and the Tourist Trophy. What next? Le Mans 24 Hours? Seems like there's every chance. And the GT2 winner, Rocky and Mike. Mike Rockenfeller and Mark Lee. Rocky and Mark. Rocky and Bullwinkle. Oh, best not mention that to Mark. Peter Cox there, giving and receiving congratulations for George Howard Chappell. And the beaming face of Dave Richards there. A very, very happy man as Aston take a 1-2.
Well, no, this is our development year. We're just testing the cars this year. Next trip is to Le Mans, but what a way to go to Le Mans after a 1-2 for the TT here in our home crowd at Silverstone.
Do you think it was quite easy for both cars to be up there?
It wasn't easy at all, and you know, if you look at the times, the performance on the track was very similar. All the drivers did a great job, but remember the pit crew, because the pit crew at the end of the day made the difference, I think.
Thank you, Peter Cox. Well, a podium finishes for both cars, but did you actually think you'd take home the victory?
Well, you always hope, but thinking is a different thing. But I also want to emphasize that the whole Aston Martin racing team did a fantastic job on the pit stop, but that gave us really the edge, and for the rest we had to keep it constant, and the Aston Martin already has proved its reliability in winning Sebring 12 hours, so I think it's a fantastic result for everybody. I'm really happy.
So Aston Martin with a 1-2 in the Tourist Trophy. David Brown will be looking down with a big smile, and so too Victor Gauntlet, another man whose passion for motorsport and for Aston Martin rescued the company, both of men, in times of dire straits, and took the motor racing. And again now, under the management of Ford, Aston Martin returns to motor racing, to sports car racing that it has done so well in the past. So behind them, of course, Maseratis and the Ferraris, the regular championship contenders. Maserati taking the top 3 point scoring positions. Neil Cunningham, Ben Collins, Lawrence Kane, Johnny Kane and Lawrence Tomlinson taking second and third in GT2 behind the GT2 winners. And look at that, 3 Maserati teams tied at the top. Bartels Scheider, Bertolini Wendlinger, and the second of the Vitaphone cars, Fabio Babini and Thomas Piache, all tied for the lead. Gabriele Gardel on his own as a result of having different teammates so far this year. Vitaphone and JMB, not much to choose between them, with Vitaphone's slight points advantage, 12 points in it, not an awful lot. But look at Labra as well. First year with the 550 Ferraris. Jacques Lecomte knows a thing or two about racing in endurance. Lieb and Rockenfeller then take a standalone advantage over Collard and Sugden. Tomlinson and Kane now third in the points ahead of Collins and Cunningham after strong results from those cars. 2 of the 3 races so far. Gruppa M lead, Scuderia at Kos, who didn't race here at Silverstone, now tied in second by another British team, Team LMT. So 3 British teams heading the GT2 category. But for the Aston Martin drivers, a 1-2 result. 2 happy, 2 ecstatic. And that was the Centenary Tourist Trophy from Silverstone, round 3 of the FIA GT Championship.